Today is April 19th, 2018, and welcome to the pilot episode of The Night Before. Hey guys, welcome to Jack's Back. Fuck. Whatever. Welcome to Jack's Back and Macca. I'm Macca, and tonight I'm here with some friends to talk about the release of Dad of War Norse Edition.
There's a lot of Dazens.
It really is just Dad of War. Why is it, with this week in particular, there's a lot of dad games coming out? There's Yakuza 6, and then there's Dad of War.
Week of the Dad. It's like National Dad Week.
Yeah. International Dad Week.
420.
Okay, so anyway, introduce yourselves real quick.
I'll go first. My name's Will. My YouTube channel's Nova Arby, but we're going to call me Will because I'm not an idiot. And I'm here to talk about Dad of War.
Alright, I'm Matt. I don't have a YouTube. I'm just here to be here.
His name's Rinka Chi-Chi.
Yeah, just for a little background, Will here is basically the biggest God of War fan of us. Matt here is also super into it. I've played all of the games, or at least most of them. I finished most of the games. I've played all of them, but I finished most of them. I've definitely finished 1, 2, and 3. And I'm more of a casual fan, where I definitely really do enjoy it. I'm just not as huge into it as these two. Okay, so I got some questions here to help give it some kind of structure. First thing with the gameplay, how much like the past games do you think the combat will actually be? It seems like it's not all... It looks completely different. The way they're presenting it is definitely different.
It looks like they completely reworked everything. Like, it's whole different style, and I think that in itself is probably very heavily supported by the fact that it's not called God of War 4. It's just called God of War. Yeah. And from all the things we've seen, it looks nothing like the thing they would have carried over maybe from the past games is leveling up your weapons, and that's it. And even then, you're only leveling up what appears to be one weapon, and then you're upgrading your stats and all that. It just doesn't seem like really anything's carried over. But
technically, there is a shield.
We don't know
that
how
you can hit with.
There's a shield, so they brought back like Jason's golden fleece, technically with like a parry. I don't know if it's gonna work the same as parrying projectiles, or if it's just like it might not even be a parry. It might just be a block that looked like a parry. You know, I don't really know, but I think it's going to be completely different, but at the same time, they still have Cory Barlog in it, and he's directing it, and he did a couple, I don't know if it was all the other games, but a couple of the other games. I know he's involved in the previous God of Wars, so I'm sure there's going to have a good feel of the same games to it, just completely, hard to explain, but it's going to have like an essence of old God of War, but played differently. Maybe feel the same.
Didn't David Jaffe direct 1, 2, and 3?
That's what I'm pretty sure. I know David Jaffe was the director for 1 and 2 for a fact, but I don't know how his involvement with 3 was. He might have been the director. I need to look that up real quick.
Okay, do that. It very much does look very different, but I'm not 100% sure how much like the old games it'll actually feel. I'm really curious about that. Because at first I thought, oh, this is a completely different gameplay system. This is over the shoulder. They're mixing it with third-person shooter, that kind of thing. And but the more gameplay I see, there are some bits that look more like the original God of Wars, and some bits that look more like what it seemed like initially. So it might be a balance of the two.
Well, here's what I'm saying is Cory Barlog, who is the creative director for this new God of War, doesn't. Without doing too much clicking around, it definitely says that he worked on God of War 1 and 2. So, and even with God of War 3 having a different director, Stig Asmussen, I don't know how to pronounce his name really, but even having him as the creative director, it was very much the same. It was, you wouldn't be able to really tell it was someone else, but Cory worked on 1 and 2, so I'm sure, at least this new God of War is in the right hands, if that's what we're kind of going with. Like, how much is it going to be like the old ones? I think we'll be fine with that. And if it's got all these good scores, then at least we know the new gameplay works pretty well. So
Yeah.
I'm not too scared, at least, but I think you can find a little bit of the old games touches in there as well, I'm sure.
What about you, Matt?
I'm gonna agree with what you said, that I think it'll be a kind of a blend of the two. Judging from the trailers, it definitely seems like Kratos' attacks, like mainly with the axe. Well, actually, no, not even with the axe, with everything. It seems like everything just feels like it hits a little harder, and it feels like it has more of an impact.
I agree.
Because, well, you know, in the older God of War games, enemies would take a lot of hits. They weren't particularly like too tanky or anything like that, but they would take a lot more hits, and it'd be more so about all the different combos you can do. Whereas in this one, you know, you see Kratos like shoving enemies up against walls with his fists and everything, and it just seems like it's more about the impact of the weapons rather than Kratos flying around with these different weapons doing these crazy combos. And I think the biggest contributor to that isn't even like the different movesets or just the entirely different weapon. It's the camera placement, because, you know, God of War,
definitely.
the right stick didn't control the camera. The camera was always in set positions, and it was always zoomed out so that you can see like the entire area that you're fighting in. Whereas this one, it's got the over the shoulder. If it zooms out a bit in combat, it isn't very much. So it's very centered around Kratos' hits. Like they look, and they're probably going to feel very heavy compared to the past games, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a good thing. It's really just a preference. If you like cutting up your enemies like 5 million times before they die, and just doing all these combos, you know, then you might not like where the direction of the new combat is going.
The originals, even if the enemy had taken enough hits to where their health was expunged, you could still knock them around.
Yeah, exactly.
Until they fade away. So.
Yeah. It's the difference between Devil May Cry and I don't want to use Last of Us because that's the obvious comparison, but I guess just Last of Us.
Yeah, because Last of Us has melee combat,
yeah,
so you could say.
Yeah, and the melee in that, it's a lot more about the impact.
Mm-hmm.
Everything feels like a single hit of a pipe feels a lot heavier than like 2 or 3 hits of Dante with Rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
But
We need to give Kratos a revolver and ebony and ivory.
yes. Yes.
Kratos with a gun.
How exactly do you guys feel about the changes specifically? Just like you like them or don't, or are you concerned?
I personally prefer the changes because of the fact that Kratos is now using an axe, not the chain blades. The heavier hits, I think, fit the axe much more, because the axe is much more of like a brutish and heavier hitting weapon than smaller swords. So
now, if it was like, you know, because you have heavy weapons in the originals, there's always a heavy weapon set that you got, like the Nemean Cestus in 3 or Blade of Artemis in 1.
But those still didn't feel very heavy hitting in those games. Like they felt
heavy hitting as
but not
good as they could. Yeah. It, like, in comparison to this axe, it doesn't feel the same. It was about as, it did a good job heavy hitting in that aspect, but you still didn't feel like with the Cestus in 3, I felt pretty powerful using it. But again, enemies took a lot of hits, the camera was zoomed out. It was the sound effects that really made it sound as heavy as it could get, but it didn't compare to this axe really. And again, I think it's because this axe is, I think it's got a lot to do with the hit stun, the sound effects, you know, like when you hit the enemy and it like slows for a bit. That's got a lot to do with it. There's just different changes that this game is making that's going to make this axe feel heavier and really show you kind of how strong Kratos is. But I'm actually really hoping that it's going to keep his agility, because this man fought Hermes and won, and Hermes is the messenger of the gods. He can run up walls. You know, like he's fast too. Kratos is just kind of the whole package, so I'm really hoping they can showcase that well. And I think the best way they can do that is by utilizing his sleight of hand, where he can switch between his shield or he can throw his axe, which he's gonna do. That I think they need to keep his fast-pacedness in there to kind of keep the nature of Kratos the same,
I agree.
while
with that.
reinventing him at the same time.
Okay. So aside from the axe, bow and arrow, and shield, do you think there'll be any other weapons, or will just be those main three?
I feel like they're going to have at least one other melee weapon. Because, yeah, they have the axe, they have the shield, which you can hit with, and they have his fists, which I guess you could count as a melee weapon, but not really.
Yeah.
So I feel like the different melee weapons is like a staple of the God of War series. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Getting these different weapons will completely change, like, the combat style. So I feel like to not have them in it would kind of diminish from the game. It'd get kind of boring, especially with the fact that this God of War is meant to be longer than the other games. If you were just doing the same hits and the same combos throughout the whole game, it would make the combat feel a little repetitive. So I feel like there would be other weapons, and the fact that they haven't been shown off in the trailers except for the shield, I think that the melee weapons are going to have some sort of significance. I've mentioned this to you guys before, where I like Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, or, I don't think we'll beat Odin if we do fight Odin. I don't think we'll beat him right away, but like his spear, like Gungnir, like there's so much room for mythological weapons that I think it'd be foolish not to have them in the game.
Yeah, and you know what? Adding on to that, I feel like it would be a very good argument that we do get new weapons, because you're just gonna upgrade your stats, and then it comes to your weapons, your shield, your axe, and that's it. Your fist? We gotta have something else.
Exactly.
To elongate that. I feel like I agree.
Here's a quick question: how do you think this Odin design? We'll probably see Odin at some point. At what point do you think this Odin will look anywhere near as cool as SMT4 Apocalypse's Odin? Because he looks fucking cool.
No. That's the best Odin.
Actually, I feel like a really good Odin would be from Smite. Smite's Odin design
Smite has
really
a really good
He
Odin
looks
design.
like a
especially
bulky
his spear.
buff.
Especially that.
Yeah, I like how he's... We'll send a link,
yeah.
but I feel...
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I feel
see
like
it
his
when I edit the
stature...
video, so...
Yeah, you'll put it on the front, I imagine. But,
Yeah.
but his stature... God damn it, can I talk?
No. So I guess to the final gameplay question, which can lead into another question. Do you guys think the chained blades will be in the game at all?
I feel like, it's hard to say if I think they will be or won't be, but I want them to be. I'll say that. I want them to be, and I think a lot of people would like them to be, but it's really hard to say if they will be or not.
I feel about the same, and I feel if they did, it'd be at the very end.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's how I think if it's going to be in the game at all, it'll be an unlockable. I do not think it'll be story related whatsoever. But I think
I would agree if it was an old game.
If it is in the game, it will feel very different than how it did in the past games, because as we mentioned, the change in camera alone makes the whole game feel incredibly different, and the new camera position it probably wouldn't even really work for the chain blades.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to control differently.
Yeah. I think if they did show up as an end game kind of unlockable for a weapon you can choose, they would not be as far range, and he would not be near as acrobatic as he was in the other games.
Yeah.
I think his age will really show. And honestly, if it was an older game, I would agree and say it would be just an unlockable. But I think with the way games just are nowadays, where you have to pay for everything, not saying that it's going to be paying for everything, but the kind of nature of games these days is that I feel like it will be a story reason, yet unlockable. but that's I don't think you'll just like get to the end of it and it'll be unlockable. They're gonna put some sort of story thing in there for sure. In my opinion, I just feel like that's what games do these days.
Okay.
And what directors do these days. But that's just me.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on the gameplay?
No, that's it for me.
Please be the Blades of Exile, if anything, because that beautiful orange color when you max them is so much better than just the red you get from the Blades of Chaos and Athena.
Yes.
Oh my god, the Blades of Exile are beautiful.
Actually, yeah, I almost skipped over this. If the chain blades are in the game, which ones? Because there are 3. There's the Blades of Chaos from God of War 1, Blades of Athena from 2, and Blades of Exile from 3.
I think if they were gonna have them in the game, I think it would be the Blades of Chaos because it's the first, like,
I think
iconic.
so too. I think it's because the Blades of Chaos are the most iconic. Like when I played through God of War 2 and 3, and I saw Blades of Athena and Exile, I was like, those look cool, but I have never seen those before. So it's always been the Blades of Chaos. So I feel like it's probably would be the Blades of Chaos.
The Blades of Chaos look good with their red, and it definitely sticks with the Chaos. In God of War 2, when you first had the Blades of Athena in the prologue mission, they were just yellow and gold, and they looked beautiful. The Blades of Exile, when fully leveled up in God of War 3, look beautiful. It could be either one. I don't care. They are all great. They're all amazing.
Okay.
But that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, well let's move on to the story questions then. First question, is this the same universe as the original God of Wars, or is it another world that Kratos somehow made his way to? Because I think it's pretty safe to assume this is the same Kratos. Going off of the trailers, it definitely seems to be the same Kratos. The question is this literally the same world, or is it a different one?
Now, here's the thing about that, is I'm pretty sure they went on record and to Twitter to say that it is the same world, and I'm pretty sure Cory Barlog himself, if I recall correctly, said he answered the question, how could this be set in the same world as different mythologies? And he used the answer you probably think of. It's that, well, to other cultures, these were very real, so it's just a different place. Being, in Celtic areas versus when he was in the Greek areas. Supposedly, these gods are here as well, even though in God of War 3 it went under the explanation that this was the entire world, and now the entire world's under chaos. Hope and chaos was given to the humans to shape it as they see fit, and that's why there's no more Greek gods. They went into the tagline that what happened to the Greek gods? Well, you're about to find out. Kratos killed them all. So I think they meant to end it, but now they're trying to creatively craft it, and it's just going to be in a different area.
It's the kind of thing where it's like how, Kratos would turn into such a monster, he basically doomed everybody. So the question is, how, the question is, the way the game ends, it's like the world is dead. The world is fucked. It cannot be recovered. So that the main question is, was it just the one area that was fucked, or was it the whole world?
Yeah.
And I feel like if it is true that the director came out and said that it's the same world, then it probably will, the explanation will probably be, it was just the Greek peninsula that was fucked. Everything else was fine.
Yeah, because 3 was totally meant to end it, and now there's God of War, and they're just like, well, we gotta dig ourselves out. Kind of like how in Yakuza, Sunshine Orphanage was written in to kind of end off Kiryu's legend of Yakuza. Now they're like, how do we keep it in, but not focus?
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Yakuza 6 came out this week.
It did.
Yeah. What about you, Matt?
I'm trying to remember something else. I couldn't remember if it's a game, a movie, or a show, but something else did something like this where it's so hazy to think of, but I know it happened. Where
is it Percy Jackson?
I don't think so, because I've never actually seen Percy Jackson movies, but the main character goes to a place where there's a different mythology, and it's all just completely different. Like, you might as well be on a different planet. And
the reason I brought up Percy Jackson is the entire original pentology. It's pentology for 5, right? I think it's pentology.
Yeah.
The original Percy Jackson and the Olympians pentology is completely Greek. And then then afterwards there was a sequel series, which I haven't read all of. I think I only read like 2 books into it, where it's Roman gods, but it's the same universe with the same characters. But the logic there is that the Greek gods and the Roman gods are literally the same being. But that also reflects how in the real world, the Roman gods were literally just the Greek gods with new names. But Rick Riordan also has another series dealing with Egyptian gods that exist in the same universe, in the same world. And it's never really addressed how there could be multiple gods that like created everything within their own cult. Like according to the myths, if they exist, they created the world. The world was created and ruled in that way. But if they conflict with each other if they both exist at the same time, and he never really addresses how that works. At least that's what my friend tells me. I have not read the books since high school, so.
Well, the way I'm thinking of like how it works is as a forewarning. I'll when I say universe, I'm going to mean like, you know, the whole God of War umbrella as a whole, like same Kratos. I think it's going to be in the same universe because the same Kratos, you know, his history is going to be the same. Everything's the same. All the other God of War stuff happened. But I think it is going to be a separate world. And by that, I mean, God of War already doesn't really make any geographical sense. So to try and imagine it in a way where like, oh yeah, this is happening on Earth, I don't think it's really good to do that because it's not just like your sense of a planet or like of the world. It's more so like, you know, you could travel down a river and be in like this completely different land, similar to like, I don't know, going through some portal into like hell or something like that. Like it'd be completely different environment, though you only just went down the river. I think it's going to be something similar to that, where this Northland is going to be its own world. So all that shit that happened in God of War 3, like that world's fucked. It's gone. It's destroyed. And then this is a whole new world that is unaffected by what happened where Kratos was. And okay. But I still think that all those events have still happened. Like he just stumbles into a new reality. Like the game's not out yet. I don't know how it's gonna start. It might even sum up how he gets to where he gets to. But it'd be like
it's gotta.
Yeah, it'd be like that. Just imagine Kratos in the original God of Wars was on Earth, and then now he's on Mars, but he just accidentally stumbled upon there.
But what a fucking divine mistake on Odin's part to open up his fucking portal to the most homicidal god slayer.
Oh, hey, you look cool. Come on. We have a party going on.
That would even make sense. Because Odin welcomes worthy warriors to dine with him in Valhalla. So
true.
Oh god.
That would make sense.
He's gonna try and entice Kratos, and Kratos is gonna be like, it's
Odin just makes the biggest fucking mistake of all time. I honestly, I think it'll probably be, at least, like, if it's true what the director said, and that this is the same world, then, well, you know, we're just wrong. But up until now, I have thought what Matt thinks. I think it's probably a different reality. But if it's true what Will said, and that it is the same world, then, you know, that just opens up more questions for me. Anyway, the next question. Fuck, I thought I fucking deleted that. God damn it. Okay, do you guys think they'll actually be able to turn Kratos from the monstrous anti-hero that he is at the end of God of War 3 to an actually sympathetic protagonist? Like, do you think they'll be able to redeem him? Because I know a lot of people feel as though he is irredeemable by the end of the game, by the end of 3. Some people think he's irredeemable from the beginning of the first game, but it's clear that with this game they're trying to make him sympathetic. So do you guys think they'll actually be able to do that?
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Yeah. I feel like for you, Will, it was gonna be a yes.
I'll go into it, but I'll let everybody else.
Yeah. Honestly, I think what they'll do, because the way I see it is that in the beginning Kratos is definitely sympathetic, but by the end of 3 it's the kind of thing where it's like, man, he really does turn into a monster, kind of like with Guts, where Guts has numerous moments of like, bro, what the fuck, but you still understand him. I think what they'll do is, I think they will be able to make him sympathetic, but I think the question is whether they will able to make him sympathetic from himself or from the bond that you two share because you're both caring for Atreus.
Okay.
Kind of like with Lee in The Walking Dead, how he the main thing that a lot of people bonded with Lee over was Clementine, because you were both raising him. And even if you didn't like Lee all that much as a character, a lot of people bonded with him purely because, well, he is also taking care of Clementine. He cares about Clementine just as much as the player. So I think it'll be like that.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I'd argue that the game has already done a good job of making Kratos sympathetic before it's even come out. Simply because the very first reveal of God of War, you can see the change in Kratos' face immediately. And no, I'm not talking about the beard. Like, you can... Okay.
He is very clearly incredibly regretful of what he did in God of War 2 and 3.
Extremely. You can see it just written on his face, plain as day. Whereas
you can hear it in his voice.
Exactly.
Almost.
They got it down in his appearance really well, that he's a sad old man. But
he's like, I fucked up and I'm just trying my best right now.
But in comparison to how he used to look, like Kratos, you could crush a diamond between his two brows. He was so angry all the time. Yeah. Like his brows were at maximum furrowed. So
they were always angry.
You know, when you see this new Kratos and he isn't in permanent angry face. He's, like you said, he looks very regretful. So I think they've already done a good job of making him relatable and allowing you to sympathize with him, because, you know, as much bad shit as Kratos has done, you still love him from playing the games. So just seeing him in that state makes you feel sad for him, makes you just feel bad.
You can see it in his fucking eyebrows in the new game, as his eyebrows are no longer in a fucking angled position. They are now semicircles above his head, and he is not very angry anymore. Or, well, I mean, he is. But
he's upset.
His eyebrows tells a fucking story. Now, I just wanted to say, while Kratos was very much a fuckwit in 2 and 3, he got shit on a lot.
Oh, no, totally.
At some point, if a dude didn't lose his fucking mind and try to kill everybody, I don't know what else you could do to make him go crazy. I've always felt bad for Kratos, no matter what he was doing, from gouging out Poseidon's eyes with his thumbs, which is cool, by the way, to fucking, you know, stabbing Athena, like, and that even showed that he still cared about somebody. It's just everyone fucked him over. And while everybody was just kind of looking at him saying, he's an asshole, that's the end of it, there were supreme intellectuals who study at the library like I, who were thinking, damn, this guy got kind of shit on. I'd be a little pissed too. And I was just like, you know what, while what he's doing is completely, you know, objectively awful, I do feel bad for him, and I always will. They did a really good job with Ascension, because Ascension was made after 3. They did a really good job of paying attention to his character, because at the end, when he has to kill a man named Orcos, you can see, like, he's like, I don't want to kill you, I don't have to kill you, you know, and whereas I feel like later on down the line, he'd be like, alright, if I gotta kill you, I'll do it. But they did a really good job about making Kratos slowly lose himself over time. Because in God of War 1, he was a very like, okay, this, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm a little tired. Can I get rid of these memories? He just wants to get rid of, like, visages in his head. That's it. And he's been doing this for 10 years. I've been working at Walgreens for 3 years, and I'm about ready to lose my fucking mind. So... so 10 years of serving the gods and doing their shit just to get rid of these nightmares. I'm surprised he didn't do it sooner.
I think
Surprised he didn't do
I
it
think
sooner.
the Guts comparison is actually really apt here for a number of reasons, but for this especially, because Guts,
I agree.
he does so much fucked up shit, but you completely understand why he's like this.
Right, he's lost it, and if you really pay attention to God of War, you can see that in Kratos as well.
Yeah.
I feel.
It's like, yeah, he's doing bad shit, but it's really not his fault.
That dude has gone fucking berserk.
Hashtag Kratos has done nothing wrong.
Kratos did nothing wrong.
Okay, so last question for story, and then there's the final question, which I've been dancing around.
Yeah.
How do you guys think the game will end?
I don't know. I'm really don't know.
Do you guys think,
I think they're
someone
gonna
will
leave
die?
it up to...
Here's the question: Have they announced if this is going to be a new series or just a new game?
Don't think so. It's just a new game, as far as I know. Like I said, if they make a new trilogy out of it, I would be so happy. But I don't know. I don't know.
Because if it's going to go into a new series of God of Wars, personally, I think Kratos is going to die, and Atreus is going to take up the mantle. I'm really getting that vibe, because this game is falling into the category that's shared with the movie Logan and The Last of Us, where it's like that old man, the old man caring for the young child, and the young child isn't meant to be likable at first, and then they grow on you, but I think Kratos is too old at this point. Like, this is the Kratos is old now, he can't keep doing this kind of thing. Another good example of that would be Metal Gear Solid 4. Where it's like, okay, this has to end, he's too old now. I really think because of that, Kratos is going to be the one who dies, and I think the game is going to try and make us want Atreus to take up the mantle, and that's what he's going to do. Because I read somewhere that they're not making Atreus likable, and I've heard that there's been a lot of back and forth in the dev studio about Atreus, and a lot of people didn't want to put him in the game because he wasn't likable. And I think upon hearing that, there has to be some sort of redeeming thing, something to make sense of why they wouldn't make him likable. And I think that's going to be it, is Kratos dying at the end during a really big character improvement for Atreus, like a big point of character development, and then he's going to take up Kratos' mantle.
I think it would be a really good idea to make Atreus not likable to sort of feel how Kratos feels. Because if you want... you're seeing right off the bat that Atreus is having... he's learning. So it's like, here's the struggle of teaching this kid not to be a fuckwit like his old man. And Kratos is trying so hard not to rip his goddamn head off, despite hitting him with an arrow. I personally would be a little pissed, but Kratos is like, he's like, and then he just simmered down. He's like, it's all right, it's good. And I'm just like, maybe they're trying to make you feel like that, maybe they're trying to put you really in the shoes of Kratos by making Atreus not likable, make him like an annoying little shit. You're trying to teach the ways, and in turn you get put into Kratos' footsteps easier. You bond with him, and you sort of step into his role, and that's what's gonna make his death or anything that they're gonna do with him more. That's how they're gonna make you sympathetic to Kratos. To bring back the other question, is they're gonna try and really make you feel like this man's got a lot of shit to deal with right now. Like that could be something to do.
I think there are three possibilities that are going to come out of this. Kratos dies and Atreus lives. Atreus dies and Kratos is fucking pissed again. And no one dies and the story continues with the two of them. I think what's most likely is Kratos will die and Atreus will take over. I think what's least likely is Atreus dies and Kratos will go back to being angry, because that would completely undo everything they're trying to do with this game, but it's still very much a possibility. And I think the middle one is clearly them both. The middle one is obviously them both living. But I don't know. That one I'm 50-50 on. It could go either way, but I feel it's most likely that Kratos will die and Atreus will be the Norse god of war.
I could see Atreus dying, Kratos goes crazy, and then he dies at the end. And nobody's alive anymore. And it was just to show, oh, you don't want to change, or people don't want to change, or whatever moral they want to throw in there. I could see that happening. Fuck you, Kratos is dead, and there's no after credits scene where he's blood trail off a cliff. He's dead for real. Yeah, like, I don't know.
Man, they would put in a lot of effort just to give a fuck you to the community.
So, anything else you guys want to say about the story?
I think we've covered a good bit.
Okay. And the last question that I've been dancing around. So this game is very clearly influenced by The Last of Us. How much like The Last of Us do you think it'll be?
I think it'll be taking if I recall, The Last of Us didn't have Ellie really doing much until like a later half, and even then I don't know if she did, because there was a point where Joel was sick and Ellie was taking over, but I don't know if after that she gained any abilities to help Joel in any way. I can't remember.
Well, before that
Atreus
she got the hunting rifle and she'd actually like fight in combat.
Okay, yeah, because I know what they're trying to do is they're trying to make Atreus a very viable partner in this. Like, you're gonna use him for different things. They've said in interviews they want to make him very useful in battle and make him make you want to travel. Make it not like a painful escort mission. They're gonna make it. I think at the very least they're gonna make the whole escort thing less painful. Not that it was very painful in The Last of Us, because Ellie didn't trigger anything and she didn't really die.
Nobody died.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do the same thing with Atreus. Atreus is gonna have a health bar, but he's gonna be like a little ability that Kratos can sort of toggle, and then he shoots an arrow, stuns an enemy, or he reveals a weak spot with his arrows, or something like that.
Target the giant glowing spot.
Yeah, hit that giant glowing
massive
spot that I
damage.
can't hit with my own axe. Yeah, something like that.
I think
I don't know.
I think I saw in one of the reviews I've seen. I've only seen like 2. In one of them, I think it was IGN's, they said that Atreus, he does have health, but what happens is when he goes down, he just goes down and he comes back after a while. He's just
Like
out of
the
commission
partner
for a
system
little
in
bit.
S&T.
At least I think that's what it was. I don't know. The reviews came out like a week ago.
Okay. I think it'll be a lot like it, but I'm sure it's gonna have its own differentiating qualities from the old God of Wars or whatever, or something new that they've added. It's not gonna be. It's safe to say that it's going to have definite vibes, because we've only seen it. We can't formulate our opinion before we play it, but it's without a doubt the resemblance is uncanny, but there's still. Got really great reviews. There's got to be something different about it that I'm sure that they've implemented that just works really, really well. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, but the obvious answer right now is yes, it looks a lot like The Last of Us, but not going to compare yet.
I'm actually going to go the other way and say that it doesn't really it looks like Last of Us because The Last of Us was like the first real super high definition motion capture dramatic story, and then it just so happens to have Ellie, like the daughter figure. And where I'm going with this is, if there was a kid that you had to take care of in Uncharted, you'd say it was The Last of Us, because it's a very realistic graphic style. Its motion capture is incredible. It's very cinematic, and then there's a kid. So I feel like the only real similarities that God of War has with The Last of Us is the cinematography, the amazing motion capture, the more dramatic setting, or not setting, but like the more dramatic tone, and the child figure.
Which cinematography was already a God of War staple.
No, but I'm saying this particular cinematography, it being close to the main character, and just overall, like, pretty dark. Like, the older God of War games were very, colorful and, brighter. Whereas this one is more gritty and dark. There's lots of grays and blues. It's very similar artistically to The Last of Us in terms of how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's really where the similarities stop.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like The Last of Us, like when you look at it, but when you think about it, it's not really.
That's just it. It's just those, and we've only seen things. We're saying it is the Last of Us clone, like it is, and we've only seen an over-the-shoulder shot with a fucking kid firing a bow and arrow. It's not Last of Us yet, but it's the first impression, and that's just it. It's the first impression.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to say, just in general?
I do kind of want to say that I did see one thing recently where I think, the troll that you fought in the first cinematic that we saw, like, during E3.
Yeah, like 2016 or something.
Yeah. I think I saw something about that being, like, the same troll each time, because the trolls used to be very abundant, and, like, they had their own, society and everything, and they used to be, like, all around, but now, there's very few of them left, and apparently, like, you're fighting the same one or something like that. Or at least that's what the director said. But yeah, I heard it was the same one? Because there's so few of them left, and you're, like, learning the story of this troll throughout your encounters. Well, that's what I'm assuming, but I'm assuming the best. That would be a really cool thing if they made you learn about that fall of their personal civilization through that one fucking encounter multiple times.
Yeah.
Like how you learn Kuze is a fuckwit.
Okay, well, unless you two have anything else to say, I think we're good here.
I'm set.
I'm good.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm
yeah,
really
well,
looking forward to playing this game when it comes out. And I won't be
definitely
speaking
same.
to anybody.
Yeah, definitely.
I got Yakuza, but I'm not gonna play it until I finish this, because the new God of War is definitely gonna be shorter, and I kind of want to play it first. And Yakuza's gonna take me like fucking 2 weeks to beat, because I'm gonna be doing everything. Maybe longer than 2 weeks, like a month. Who knows? But yeah, I'm gonna get this out of the way. And honestly, I kind of feel like this game looks almost better than the new Yakuza. I mean, well, it objectively does look better, but just in terms of like my own personal interests.
Yeah, it's like second highest to something else. I forgot.
It is the highest rated PS4 game that's not a remaster of a PS3 game. And at the time when I sent that, it had beaten out Persona 5 as the third best rated PS4 game on Metacritic, only behind The Last of Us Remastered and GTA 5. But now it's beaten out The Last of Us Remastered for number 2. So it's still number 1 in terms of being an original PS4 game, but now it's number 2 total on Metacritic, which, I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Metacritic, but you gotta admit, that's still really good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, guess that's everything. I know this isn't a typical video where I edit a bunch of shit together, but I didn't exactly have time for it this month as I'm graduating, so I promise that next month I might have something that's not just a video like this, guys, but hopefully you guys like this and I can make it more of a usual thing, because it's definitely going to be much easier to edit. I don't have to write out a script and everything. I just need to put it all together and then actually put the visuals together. because I don't want to have just normal ass. It's a podcast style video with a single picture. I want there to actually be visuals and shit. But yeah, if the people watching this like this, I'll keep doing more. And yeah. Thank you guys for coming and joining me for this. And yeah, I'll see you guys for upload next month, whatever the fuck that'll be.
Bye, fuck you.